Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, just good day to everyone who's joining the stream. Thank you all so much. It's been a little bit more, it's been 2 weeks since I talked to you all. Last week we had an amazing show with Rock, and we raised some great money. Super shout out to everyone who donated, regardless of if it was through the show or regardless of whenever it was. Amazing organization Rock was sponsoring. Thank you so much, Rock, again for bringing it to our attention. And also a very special shout out to Mama Hayes for really coming up with the idea and helping me partner on the idea of doing the donation match. So thank you so much to you, Mom. Also, just a brief update on me. Last week I celebrated my birthday, so huge thank you to everybody on Twitter and YouTube, Discord, who wished me a happy birthday. It means a ton to me to know that the community's here and that y'all recognize that. And so just to give you an update on what I did, I got to spend the day with my older, bigger brother in New York City. We did bowling, but we actually didn't do bowling, but we kind of did bowling. And we went to a couple of different steakhouses on some different nights. And then because someone did ask me what was one of my, what did I get as far as a gift, I do have it here for you all. So I got this amazing book, The World Needs More Purple People. And it's from my good friend from New York, Kristen Bell. You may know her from The Americans as well as some other great shows. Wonderful actress, and she put together that great book. It wasn't for me, but the person who gave it to me definitely thought the show reminded them of what a purple person is. So thank you so much. And what am I playing? So last week I actually beat Darksider Genesis. Great storyline, really great visuals. I think I'm going to do a review one day on that. It's a really good story. Fingers crossed for Darksiders War Mastered Edition. I know I've played it a little bit in the past, but I really want to dig into it on Stadia now. So really hoping it comes in the fall. Let's pray as well as Tomb Raider. I'm still having some issues with Lori. I did not stream it earlier this weekend. But I did play a little bit of it, so I got to catch everybody up to where I am. Still having issues with her. Y'all know she doesn't have the best judgment. But what I am super excited for is Outriders, and I am going to be talking about that until next week. Hopefully on this channel next week I can tell you that I started the game. I'm really excited about it. But enough about me and the catching up. As y'all know, this show is about community, and the person who I'm going to have the pleasure of talking to tonight, early morning for him, is none other than the man, Hoults. Oh, how
Hello
are
there.
you? Hey, Hoults. I mean, look at that nice pool in the background. I would think it's like...
I thought you didn't want to see my terrible English morning at 1 o'clock, so I was like, let's get comfortable with purple and have a nice background, just pretend that I'm chilling, just it's all fine.
Oh, it's always chilling. And I want to just shout out everybody in the chat. I see Suave's here, Ray the Gaming Cyborg, two amazing alumni of the show. Jinx, shout out to you, another veteran. Justin, always native New York. We got to play chess, Justin. Geek the Sneak. We're going to play Outriders there, Geek. Ambi, my partner in crime in every game I've been playing recently. Lo-Fi Monk. I have some good news about Lo-Fi and myself, but I'll say it at the end of the channel. Sanchez, so great to see you again. And yes, and Wilson, love the support as always. Another great content creator there as well. So thank you all so much for the support. It means, as I said before, a ton. But so Hoults, we had all these inspirational stories about gamer tags and why people are called what, Ray the Gaming Cyborg and his son. And then we had Rock and, the legacy. What does Hoults stand for?
Oh, mine is actually quite sad compared to their epic gaming tags. I mean, when we were in secondary school and stuff like that, it was common knowledge to actually have a username that was your surname and first initial. That's it. There's no
Wow.
surname. So I just kept it basic. Stole that tag all my life. Got the gamer tag. No one ever done it. And people go, "Well, is there a meaning to it?" It's like, no, that was just computer logic. Surname and first initial.
That is probably the most English thing I've ever heard on this show.
So what I mean, like Bond, James Bond, Holt, S. You know, it works. Just
Hey, but that's what people know you by. People know you. I mean, and and one of the reasons I wanted you to come on the show, besides having a most amazing original and somewhat basic, but it's not basic, multi-layered name, is because you are such an integral part of the gaming community. Like you are kind of pseudo content creator, you're a supporter of so many different channels, a gamer. How would you describe yourself?
oh, I'm just a gamer at heart. I fell into this role literally about 2.5 years ago. I was just in people's comments on the Stadia community, and I was just constantly spamming hello and talking points and stuff like that. And then one day, someone just said, "Hey, come on this panel with us," and that is when I met the likes of Rock, Duncan, Ray, Chariot Man Gaming, Storm. And on a Sunday, we was just laughing and joking, of our viewpoints of life and as gamers. And we used to tune in every Sunday and have a good time. And then it sort of just evolved from there. And CGX reached out and said, "Do you want to join a podcast panel with us?" And people knew me from that show. And then it was just creators that just wanted some just light-hearted gaming talk over across loads of genres or platforms. And I was like, "Oh, I'm down," because my friends and that in real life don't actually game. I'm the only gamer in my life. So I thought this is perfect to actually get to speak with some lovely people and actually meet new friends across the pond and around the world.
No, I think that, and that's the amazing thing about gaming is that you just meet so many brilliant people. And I already shouted him out, but he just reminded me that there was a lot of things besides my birthday this last week. Happy Father's Day to all the amazing dads in the community, and I think you're part of that group as well, Holtz. We'll get to that in a second. So happy Father's Day.
I,
Uh,
I'm not a father, but I've got a world's best greatest dad cup that I
oh,
actually I actually stole from my dad.
well, hey,
So I can. There you go. I've got a mug to join everyone.
there you go. Drink to it. It's amazing. But no, shout out to that. Also, shout out to and your mama knows had a anniversary. I believe it was his 7th. Rock or John Scars had a birthday, and I think Califat had a birthday. So a lot of things going on in the community. Please, great stuff. June's always a great month for that. But yes, thank you for the reminder climax. An awesome video he did yesterday with Lena Love on Mother's Day and Father's Day. So if you want to go check that out, definitely go do that. But with that said, Holt, you mentioned gaming, you mentioned meeting, great people. That's today. What we want to do is get back to the Holt S as a young kid in grade school, or maybe even before. When did you start to realize like you were a gamer?
Oh well, I'm born in '86, so I don't know what consoles were before me. But when about I was 4, my brother, he used to have a converted attic, and upstairs was a Commodore 64, and he used to always hide that ladder, so I couldn't get access to it. But like a cat, I learned to scale my mother's walls, up the walls to get inside the attic to play this Commodore 64, to play like Terminator 2 and Chopper Lifter and Bruce Lee. I didn't even know he was an actor. I just thought he was actually cool, dodging all this stuff. And then I used to scale down from the attic without actually getting caught. But then what happened was my mother clicked on that there was footprints all above the wallpaper. So she knew I was actually sneaking up to actually game. So that was one of my first instances. But roughly at that same time, my parents took me to a seaside resort, and there used to be an arcade there. And my parents didn't want me to game. So there was some tricks where I used to get like a lolly ice stick and knock like quarters out of slot machines to play games in the arcade. This is like at an early age. And I used to play like Ridge Racer and Tekken and all these amazing games. And I used to think I was cool in the arcade with my slush puppy, and I used to speak to all these kids like, "Hey, do you want to have a game of Mortal Kombat or Tekken?" And that's how I befriended people at a young age, because it was because of gaming. I love gaming.
Wow. So if you were to do that today, you would probably be arrested.
Well, as it evolved, that was just like that was just like at like what, four, six. If people saw me now actually shaking the machines to get coins out now and just to play Mortal Kombat, yeah, they would have probably escorted me off the premises.
Oh my god. So you're a fighter game type.
I'm every type of gaming. Like I said, over the years, so like that was my first introduction into gaming. Was the 90s. But what was so good in growing up with the gaming, even though my parents didn't want me to game, is I had access to great consoles that weren't mine at the time. So I had access to the Nintendo system, the NES, and the Sega Saturn. So I was playing multiple platforms without actually having a bias. So I used to have friends that we used to swap games. And like I mentioned, my mum, she didn't want me to play these like violent games that were in the arcade, but she would let me play console gaming inside the house because she thought it was more like kid friendly, should I
Wow.
say? But when I was a kid, there was a cartoon show called. Do you ever see Captain M, the Game Master?
Captain M the game. No, I don't. Chat, y'all got to back me up on this. Captain
So,
M the Game Master. Was this
so
a UK
what happened?
exclusive?
No, 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 no. What happened was it was this kid, and I was always blown away by the idea. I was one of them kids at an early age that literally wanted to be sucked inside the TV and be in these worlds. And what happened with this Captain M Game Master? He was just a kid, and what happened was his NES short circuits and faulties the TV and sucks him into the world of Nintendo. So like Samus from Metroid and the Mario Brothers from Mario and Zelda and
I
Link.
think I have seen this show. Like they would like play the game.
Yeah, and Kid Icarus, and that the kids would actually try and save the Nintendo realm from all the bad guys. And I was like, when I was that age, I was like, why couldn't that happen to me? And I can just get sucked into the world of Nintendo. Because, like I said, that time period, it was like 91, 92, 93. There was movies like, do you ever see that movie called Stay Tuned when he had the remote control and he got sucked into the game world?
Oh my gosh, where have I been? I feel like I haven't lived.
And
Like
and and, and of course, Last Action Hero when he
I
gets it
see.
like
Yes.
and I thought to myself, this is exactly what I want. I was that kid with a wild imagination, thinking any moment now, my characters are going to suck me into the Nintendo world or whatever, and that's going to be me. Holt saves the day. So,
Oh my gosh. I'm sure when you told your parents this, they just like looked at you. Now I understand why they were like, you're not going to become a gamer.
well, we'll see. So, like I said, my parents, they were like, "Oh, you're not going to play these games. It rots your mind." But then my parents, allowed me to sit down before school and after school to play and to watch cartoons. So I used to watch cartoons like the Animaniacs, The Mask, Earthworm Jim, Beetlejuice, Bucky O'Hare, Pirates of the Dark Water, and without my parents knowing, there were actually games on the Nintendo system and the Sega. So I used to have this gaming experience, then plus a cartoon universe that expanded all my knowledge in gaming. So even my parents tried to keep me away, I was always well known because of the cartoons, and it was it was a great time.
Oh my god. So you mentioned something earlier, and Rock mentioned this. And so I just want to see, because you kind of like, and that's the Commodore 64, by the way, your initial gaming experience.
Yes.
And then you get to this console game, right? Rock was a little older once consoles started coming around, as he mentioned last week. But from your perspective, did you kind of recognize a difference in the game? And could you explain the Commodore game?
Well, a Commodore was just like this big old CRT monitor, used cassette tapes that you used to have to put in, and I used to read the film. And I used to have a big, my brother used to have a flight stick, a Joy-Con stick, and it used to take ages to boot up, and then play the game. But that was my first introduction to gaming, so I never knew any difference. I just thought, wow, I'm playing Terminator 2, having the time of my life. So I know a lot of people, but I feel like I feel like I grew up with the industry, even though I was never there at the start of like when the likes of Rock or Ray mentioned their consoles a lot earlier than mine.
So, but so it was like kind of a natural progression. You weren't there, and then now you're playing Nintendo. You're trying to get sucked into the TV.
Yeah, and like I said, even like when Sega was there, like I think the properties of games that we knew that I was playing now were also big cartoon things as well. So like we're talking from the Sega franchise, people knew Sonic the Hedgehog because of the cartoon, but the game. People knew Tasmania Devil, Tiny Toons, because it was a cartoon and a game. And now if you look at them characters now, they're still here today, 30, 40 plus years. So I feel I was there in that instant when these projects kicked off. The systems sold, and then I've just grew with the times.
Yet those characters never age. Never age.
I was just in this, and I took my nephew, he's 9, to see Sonic 2 a few weeks back. And the whole point is, I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen. Watch this, blah, 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 X, Y, Z. And he looked at me and he went, you're cool. How did you know that was happening? And I was like, I played Sonic 1 literally 30 years ago. But 30 years ago, you were a nerd, you were a geek, you were a gamer. You were shunned for liking stuff like that. And then there's my 9-year-old nephew. And I'm like, damn right, because I know Super Golden Sonic. Damn right.
You had your stripes. You went through it.
That's it.
It was all worth it. It was all worth it for that moment to connect with the nephew. I think that's the cool thing about gaming is how you can just connect across generations with people for the passion to just game and the characters and the storylines. And so I think we've heard this before on this show, but that's super cool. So favorite game of the 90s? Top three, because there's several different platforms. Let's go with top 3. That's what we like to talk about. What's your favorite game? We're going to judge you, by the way.
Do you know one of my favorite games was NES? It was Mickey Mouse's Wild Adventure. I don't think it was a Sega Saturn, because at that time, it was like I was such inspired by the likes of Disney in before and the stories of Mickey Mouse that when I actually got to play that game and see all the alliterations and all the characters that I've known from the movies, I was like, wow, this was very enjoyable. And I literally played it loads of times. That was one in my early childhood. If we're going to fast forward a little bit in the 90s, it was like Final Fantasy VII. That was the first game to ever get me involved into a massive RPG and just literally make me love every single part of the game, because back then I never used to care about who directed it, the art style or the music, because gaming to me was just fun. But then at that age, that's when I started appreciating the art style and the directors of music and stuff like that. So Final Fantasy VII was another one, and a third one I would have to say see this, you get me in now. I used to love playing the Animaniacs as well. I used to love playing the Animaniacs once again on the NES. And of course, I can always go to like loads of games.
Did you just call it the NES?
NES, Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah, I never heard someone call it the NES. I was like, is he talking about NES? No, it's
what did you call it?
I called it the Nintendo or NES.
It's NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, and the S was Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the SNES. No?
The SNES? No.
So what do you call SNES?
SNES, yeah, that's a thing. SNES. SNES?
I'm not making it up, but we used to call it the NES.
The NES?
The NES and the SNES. There you go, Kat. You've learned something new.
Oh my god. Whoa. Lo-Fi, you're not Squids. You can't use the triple Z. Did you really call it the NES and the SNES? You can't do that. No, I never heard of this.
I'm not making it. I'm not making it up. I'm pretty sure it's a thing. I'm pretty sure it wasn't just me and my friends just making this weird thing.
I believe it. I believe it. Y'all call cookies biscuits.
No, to me, because NES would be N.E. SNES. Do spaces or dots in between. That's why it was the NES. It was one word to abbreviate it. But
yes, Super NES, SNES, yes. And I'm gonna call for one, Jinx, since you brought it up. I want to know if you're a true Techno Bowl player. Okay, this is to you, Jinx, or to anybody in chat who played Techno Bowl. What was the best team in Techno Bowl? There's one answer, and it's because of one player. See if y'all get that answer. And hey, David Wilson, we're talking to someone who lives right down the road from you. I don't know where y'all live, but you're all both over there.
He's not far from mine, but he's maybe a generation or back than me. So I wonder if he actually knows. But we shall see.
Oh, Jinx got it. Yes, Jinx. And for the chat, tell them why it's the best team. Jinx got Jinx. We think alike, both Army people here. But yeah, it was the Raiders. Awesome job. So all right, so you played Nintendo. You really got into the cartoons. One of the ones that you didn't really mention, Zelda. It's surprising. That was a cartoon back then.
Zelda to me is like, I was going to move on to Zelda as we got to like my teen years, because that is when I started playing when the N64 came out in like 96 and the PlayStation 1 97. This is when I started getting involved in these type of games. So Zelda, Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, when they came to that platform, and the ones that I used to play on the GameCube. I actually loved Twilight Princess, and I actually loved Wind Waker.
Waker.
You never played Wind Waker?
No one says that's one of their favorites.
Hey, all Zeldas are my favorites. Like I said, the problem with Zelda, same like Final Fantasy, it's like you have to pick one, but they're all good. That they've got so many good merits that it's very hard unless I write it all down on a piece of paper and go, okay, this one's my favorite. But Wind Waker did have some great features.
No, Wind Waker was okay. The art style kind of threw me.
Why I love Wind Waker, I loved cel shading, because at that time, that is when I started getting into like sort of anime. So that's when I was sort of watching like Inuyasha from early 90s. I was watching Dragon Ball Z, and I was just amazed by like how animations picked up. So when I actually seen a different art style in Wind Waker, I went, this is amazing. I can get behind this.
No,
you never liked it?
Wind Waker, I mean, it came out, I think it polarized the community, the Zelda community back then in the early Yahoo Zelda group days. Yes, there was a Yahoo group for Zelda fans. And so it was like, I don't know, like, because it came after, you had Ocarina of Time, you had Majora's Mask, like really revolutionized gaming, as I've said many times.
On Fire Purple, we just mentioned Yahoo Group. I was part of a bulletin board of Final Fantasy VII, where I was a moderator, and we used to all role play stories of Final Fantasy VII. So it was Hoults done this spell, and we used to. That's what we used to do. And that was like fan fiction as well, but it was still playing into the lore that we all had materia and we all had certain preferred fighting styles, and yeah, that was I actually doing that.
So I had a friend who tried to get me into a similar thing. It wasn't a bulletin board, but it was a similar thing where you would like put blank and then like purple wears cap and gown and is staring across bar and stuff. How do you keep track of all that? I always wondered that. How do you keep track of all the characters and what's going on?
Oh no, because it was a bulletin board, and it was just one puts a message, puts a story, like a fighting. So like as Hoults glares at Purple in an infuriating flame and bursts out of Hoults, and he fires fire at Purple. And then your next message be like, but in the quick wittiness, Purple dodges and fires an ice blast or something like that. And it was just like, but then they come together, both clashing swords, and you just told it like that. Next message, until someone in the community went, okay, Purple won, and it was like, oh, okay. It was just telling a story.
That's so cool. I love how like this like transcended, like it's because this is the early internet. This is early social media, right? This is early like social, like getting into things. And I didn't know we had an actual Yahoo bulletin Final Fantasy moderator on the show.
And you know what?
Checking the boxes on this one.
It was that bad that we embedded like a photo of like Cloud and Sephiroth, and it was so stretched out and looks horrible. And the bulletin board overlay, they never had any proper colours, no structure. It was just this blown out picture, and then the bulletin board topics, and we all thought that was cool back then.
No, that's still cool. I think you actually could go. I think there's so many people who would be into that right now, because it's like you're bringing in, to your point, the fan fiction, the passion, and the creativity. I think that'd be actually pretty cool to do again, if you ever wanted to start into it. So N60. So obviously Nintendo was kind of your system there at the late 90s. It sounds like.
So late 90s. You know, I was a teenager. I was a young teenager then, so my preference in games, I'm not saying that I didn't really, I'd still played action adventure, so I can talk about like Gech or like Crash Bandicoot, or you know, there was a few other ones that I enjoyed, but I my taste in gaming evolved. So when I got access to more adult, I wouldn't say adult games, because I wouldn't say Tomb Raider or Thrill Kill, they were just more designed for like a teenage audience. So I started playing more games now that were in action adventure. I was playing more like RPGs. I was playing more races. I was playing more violent fighters. So, and that's what hooked me in the PlayStation era, because it was the first ever console to say, okay, this is not specifically for kids. This is for more a family gamer, the gamer that's growing up now. And yeah, I started playing like I started getting into horror, Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, Paradise Eve, sorry, and stuff like that. So it was all these different genres that I couldn't dare play as a younger kid, because I would have been scared to play them, should I say.
No, I think so. It's really, no one ever actually talked about PlayStation like that. Like, so this is really kind of the narrative arc. You are kind of really talking about the games or the platforms as kind of like geared towards you as a young adult at this point.
And then as a teen, of course, I had friends, and we used to go to each other's house, and we used to have a device called a multi-tap. It was a 4-way adapter. And in the end, all me and my friends used to bring our controllers round, plug the multi-tap in, and we used to have a 4-way co-op game of, say, like SmackDown versus Raw or something like that. And we used to just all sit round one TV and play co-op play. And that was the console that I think defined co-op experience for me. And I know I actually played like Turok and GoldenEye before on another console, but this is the first one that I could sit there and say my friends were always around me with our controllers playing multiplayer games. And this was before the internet. It was important for me to actually game round my friends.
No, and so you're saying that's PlayStation. PlayStation did that too.
That was PlayStation.
It's interesting because we don't really hear PlayStation as like that multiplayer game.
A lot of people sit there and go like towards more like the Xbox, because we were doing LAN parties and stuff like that, or PC. But at that time, I never had access to a PC. I mean, I played PC games when I was in primary school. Some teachers or whatever they were actually siloed Doom, loaded Doom on. So I was only about 7 playing Doom in a Catholic boys' school. So that was my iteration of playing computer games that I shouldn't have been, should I say. But they weren't more like with friends. So once I grew up, I wanted to play these games with friends where we can all share the controller, or we can all play co-op split screen. And that is where death matches, capture the flags, Unreal Tournament, Quake, and stuff like that became a big thing. They were PC games first, and I've seen them on the PC, but I was never accessible on PC because I was only young at the time. And PlayStation was the first ever console to bring these more older quality games to their platform.
Interesting. I love it. I love it. It makes sense to me. Like, I just never thought of it that way. And I want to give a shout out to a couple of the chats been going off. Thank you all so much. I am reading every single message as it goes through. Welcome, Hutch. Thank you for joining us. And I see a Climax. It looks like he wants to do a little bit of the Final Fantasy board stuff. And Jinx, WCW versus NWO. I remember that game because of the Undertaker. I used to always play the Undertaker in that game.
Mine was Stone Cold Steve Austin. But
Of course.
yeah, so like I said, going to a all boys school and that, we were actually idiots with wrestling. So wrestling was a big thing, even though you said you didn't like wrestling. So people used to walk around and go, "What was your favorite character?" Stone Cold Steve Austin, and someone used to go, "Well, it's Triple H," and they used to pedigree. They actually used to do real wrestling moves because we used to copy the games and the TV series show like it was actually real life. So
no, of course I remember. No, I remember at my school they had groups, and it was like it was like a mini gang in school. It was like the NWO group, and then the WCW group. It was actually quite troubling now that I look back into it. But you actually had like little groups of people that had social circles based upon this.
Then I was also playing games like Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Pokemon cards at the late 90s as well. So I was one of them kids who used to walk around with my cards and meet up with other people and play these board games that were also PlayStation games as well. And of course, anime at that time. So I felt like that I was interacting with a lot of different types of people, even though if they weren't gamers, should I say.
No, it's all around the same time. And then I also want Turok. You're exactly right, Jinx. We have not talked about Turok, but it's a great game. So shout out to you. And also, yes, we know Link is the hero in the game, but we gotta say Zelda because Zelda sounds cool.
I mean, I always thought dinosaurs were cool at that time. You know what I mean? We had Jurassic Park, we had Turok, we had Dino Crisis. There was just something about going around with a gun trying to stop these overthrowing threats of dinosaurs. And I think that was before zombies became a thing. So to me, these games will always be in my mind before other horror franchises came out.
So maybe it's a flip-flop, right? Because zombies used to be a thing in the 80s. Like there's so many games on NES about zombies, and then we get into dinosaurs, and then we went to zombies. And maybe we're going to go back to dinosaurs when we talk about stuff like Monster Hunter and so forth. Well, those aren't really dinosaurs, but you get the point. Or Arcar or something like that. So interesting. And then I know what Lo-Fi Monk's going to say. It would be better if it's in space. No, hunting dinosaurs would not be better if it was in space.
Dinosaurs in space.
Oh my gosh. Don't start. Don't start. We'll get to your favorite. We'll get to your ideal game here in a second. So did you play Xbox or were you PlayStation?
Yeah, so of course, so PlayStation was that thing, and then let's say it was like the turn of 2000 now. So I'm coming into my college years now. 2003, I'm starting my college years, and yeah, of course, in PlayStation 2, I was still playing the games that was known for PlayStation 1. Right. But it was Xbox that actually came out with a new plethora of genres of games, so like Halo, Gears, White Knight Chronicle, different types of games that we've not seen, plus a different ecosystem where you can communicate with your friends with Xbox Live and go online. Now, at that time, the only time I actually got on the internet at that time was PlayStation 2 Twisted Metal Black. And that was only one game. It was only when Xbox came along that brought the service that I started communicating with the world. So it wasn't just my friends anymore playing co-op games. I had the whole world to play with. And I used to constantly play the likes of Halo non-stop. Death matches and stuff like that. And it was a great time to welcome this young Xbox into the fold of gaming. A lot of people are like, "Oh, Xbox is crap," but I was like, "Have you ever played them games to actually see? They were amazing, absolutely amazing." So I was blown away by what Xbox could offer at that time.
It's interesting because you were talking about really that PlayStation 2 first Xbox era, and Xbox struggled in that time frame.
But they struggled because a lot of people were still in that frame of mind of Nintendo and PlayStation, and these were the new boys on the block, should I say. But yeah, I think I thought they actually helped bring competitive shooting and races to the forefront of gaming, where PlayStation was still known, even though it had mature adult games, they were still known as the action platformer game where the Spyros, the Crash Bandicoots, the stuff like that. So,
I think
Xbox brought it the new level of, were you a PC gamer before? Do you know Microsoft games? Do you want to play these games on this console? Yeah, well, you're an Xbox gamer.
I can actually hear the the marketing pitch right behind that. And it actually makes sense, right? Because earlier this week, and we're going to get into your streaming here in a second, but earlier this week, you were on a show with And Your Mama Knows /Cowboy, first guest on the Shades of Purple, talking about, the games and Game Pass Cloud offers and PS Cloud and or PS Premium. And with the two genres you just mentioned, shooting and racing were the two genres that, if I'm not mistaken, that Game Pass Cloud offering or X Cloud.
And it still tastes true today. Yeah, still tastes true today.
That's really interesting that you could, I thought that was the most interesting. I know we were kind of having fun with that call, but it was super interesting to me to see, you could almost see the business strategy. And as someone who's super into business, I love it.
The problem is that once Xbox brought the likes of Halo out, for example, it was very hard for PlayStation. They had brought Resistance, Fall of Man, and they brought Killzone out. And, I really love them games on that service. But everyone said it's not a Halo killer. I think Halo and Xbox defined what a first-person shooter, and it took a while for the likes of PlayStation to catch up. And I still think in today's world that they still haven't caught up. And it's only the likes of Call of Duty that is not platform specific that literally ran away with the term king of shooters and stuff like that. But I always remember even Call of Duty at that time, even though I played it on PC in the past, I always saw it as a Xbox thing, because a lot of people fled to Xbox because Xbox Live, playing with their friends, and also they got extra content in their games at that time. So Xbox was doing a lot of marketing push that other platforms weren't doing at the time. So it was great to be a Xbox gamer then.
It's so weird because you could say the same thing today, right? About Microsoft and Xbox and their marketing push and how they're doing more. I think it's just fascinating. Like I said, so then obviously that's that generation of consoles where
and then of course as the years are going on, now we're pushing to the PlayStation 3, which was one of the first consoles that I actually bought myself. It was an unlawful way how I attained this sort of PlayStation 3. I was in an arcade once, and I was gambling on this sort of fruit machine or gambling machine. And I was about to win up £100 on this gambling machine, and I leaned down and I lifted the case up by accident. And as I lifted the case up, I lost me £100. So in a 17 age me in frustration, I kicked the machine, boof. Coins fell out the machine. I looked round. Yeah. Put the money in my pocket, went back home, and then I realised I had hundreds of pound coins. So I went to the local game shop, bought a PlayStation 3, and that was the first ever console I ever bought.
Everybody who comes on the show always has this story that just doesn't sound right. Primo had something, Squids had something. Everybody where they something doesn't add up here.
Going back to the 90s in the arcade, there were machines that you put money in, and you used to get tickets, and you used to redeem the tickets for teddies or stuff like that. One day I was in the teddies and soft toys and stuff like that.
Oh, I thought you were gonna tell me some adult nightclub called Teddy's.
No, Teddy's. You know what I mean? So as we were sitting there, and I seen this man, and he was putting hundreds of thousands of these tickets in a bin bag. He was just getting rid of it. It was his job to get rid of the tickets. And he went round the back, through the bin bag. So me and my friends were like, wait there. So we got the bin bag, opened these coupons, these tickets, thousands of them. And the next day, depends on who was on the till, we were redeeming them against Tamagotchis. Can you remember what a Tamagotchi was?
The little pet, yeah.
Yeah. So we redeemed, and all me and my friends were walking around with 10 Tamagotchis on a key ring. And back then, kids couldn't afford 10 Tamagotchis. But because we found a big, huge bin bag of tokens, I had a cat, a dog, a duck. So they were my weird claim to fame of getting stuff free.
I I love it. I love it. It's like your own little like syndicate there, and in the all boys school, like doing. I think that's also kind of funny that y'all had 10 Tamagotchis.
That's it. Well, that was before, like Pocket Monsters. That was before Pokemon. That we had to look after our little pets, and that was our thing.
Pocket Monsters, was that the one that connected? Which one was the one that connected?
No, Pocket Monsters. Oh, I don't know. I remember that one. The little.
That the one that they like fought, like you could connect them together and they would fight.
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't say.
No, but it's okay. You and your Tamagotchis. That's what I'm going to take away from you. So you got the PS3.
So I got PS3, which once again it was bringing new ways of me to play. I was playing. See, the PlayStation 3 was a very hard time for me because at that age, that is when my disability started coming into play in gaming, because they started like putting like quick time events, they started taking away waypoints, they started making gaming more serious because all these features was aimed towards holding your hand in gaming. So when he took all these features away, auto assist and waypoints and stuff like that, I couldn't play them games. And at that time, when I wanted to be connected to the world and play, I don't know, Call of Duty with my friends or Resistance Fallen Man, which at them times, shooters were all about kill-death ratio. Whatever your kill-death ratio was defines you as a skilled gamer. But because I never had features available to help me play these games, I was getting a lot of stigma off people online, which made me realize that I am not capable of playing these games. So I sort of moved away from the big, huge online focus that was the PlayStation 3. So that was the only time in gaming that I started realizing, oh, I don't think I can go any further in gaming. That's what I was thinking at that time, being like close to say 18 to 21.
And you mentioned, and shout out to Chris Torres. Thank you so much for stopping by, as well as Mr. Urban World's here. Mr. Underworld's been here. He's here for you, Hoults. That's what he wanted you to know. He's here for you.
Yeah, there we go.
But I think what you just mentioned there, I think it's a very serious thing we're talking about here, which is your disability that you just mentioned, accessibility in gaming, and sometimes how it's not as inclusive of a place for things. And I just want to know if you could.
Well, the whole point is, so my disability is called retinitis pigmentosa. So it's a visual disability that I was born with. It's a mutation of the eyes. And it did have issues growing up, real life issues. But in the gaming space, I always thought that gaming was so handheld. They were holding my hands, or there was limitations in gaming, meaning all games were linear. They weren't open world. They weren't challenging. So growing up as a kid, I could play it. But over time, as my eyesight deteriorated and games started becoming more open and challenging, and they started becoming more photorealistic, the developers at that time didn't factor in that people with disabilities wanted to play these games. So when I was trying to play these games, if they never had bolder text, larger text, customizing maps, having waypoints, put friendly fire on, auto assists and stuff like that, turn quick time events off, they were all stuff I needed. But the developers threw all these things in, which actually hindered a lot of disabled gamers going to play these games, until they started learning, wait there, we have to start making our user interfaces and our games more disabled friendly. And that, I think, was the time when Microsoft, even Windows and PlayStation, started factoring in that with their next generation, they're going to start making cleaner interfaces, tile format. They're going to start using accessible tools for different types of needs. So when I actually looked at the PlayStation 4, I was like, wait there, I can start gaming again. I thought it was going to be the end of the line for me. I was like, oh no, that's it. I can't play games, PlayStation 3 or Xbox. And it was only when the PlayStation 4 came out, or Windows updated it and stuff like that, I started realizing I can get back into gaming. So I'm that type of gaming now. When I actually load up a game, I go to the screen, I check the accessibilities I need, and I play the game.
No, I love it. Well, I think that's it speaks a ton, because I definitely know a lot of these companies were getting a lot of flack
I
around
remember,
this time.
I remember my friend at the time. He just didn't, he's been my friend since I was a kid, and he was always I was playing Batman, Arkham Asylum, right? Or Tomb Raider, and there used to be an extra sense feature. When you push the button and it highlights objects. Well, I
Yeah.
could only play a game if I was always in that sense stability. No giving hints of like, oh look, this is a breakable object. This is the way they want me to go. And my friend was like, you don't know, you shouldn't always have to be doing that. The developers should put a feature in the accessibility that sort of give you these visual cues, visual aids. And it was only that when the PlayStation 4 came out on them type of games that I started realizing that they were implementing it in their games. So I was like, okay, there were still games that I definitely couldn't play, but loads of developers, especially like the likes of Naughty Dog and stuff like that, were being very considerate to a lot of disabled gamers. And so that's now, if I actually ever go into settings and I see the developers put some love, I sort of applaud them more by saying, well done, you've made your game more available to a lot of gamers who have needs.
No, and just to let my, I have some viewers who aren't so much into games. Can you just explain waypoint and like what you're saying to kind of help you get through the game? Like an example of
A waypoint used to be there, say I was having a difficulty to get out of a room. You could probably see a door, and that's the way to go. But a waypoint used to be where you used to press up on a D point, and a big, huge object used to appear by saying, this is the way you go, and this is the door you need to go. So, and then as you walk through the door, you push it again, and it will show you the other waypoint. So it sort of shows you the steps, how to carry on progressing through the game. Where at that time, once they removed waypoints from their game, I could just constantly be circling the room, or I'd be going back on myself. And it was my restrictions of my disability that was stopping me going forward with the game, because I needed something to sort of give me a hold hand by saying, that's the way you're going. So now in games, now you can sort of press R3 in now, and your character will always turn to the place it needs to go. Now, a lot of people could have said, oh, that's breaking the game. You're more the skilled gamer. You don't need all them features. But for someone like me, that's the way it sort of helps me progress the game, should I say. And then there's a game called The Last of Us 2. And they sort of give you visual cues. They give you hints. They give you waypoints. They give you extra time to defeat enemies. They point you in the right direction. They even give you audio cues. So if you can't see an object, if you're walking past the object, it'll go beep, 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 beep. It'll give you a hint that the object is close by in vicinity. And I wouldn't be able to finish that game unless Naughty Dog actually created these things, felt like for me to actually progress in the game. So I know, to me, I need these stuff to go forward. So I respect all these features, should I say. But to a lot of people at that time, they didn't understand. They just thought it was a cheat way. It was a cheat way to help them with the game. Who wants auto assist? You know what I mean? And I was like, well, I do, because I can't like aim at the crosshairs, because the crosshairs were too small. I couldn't tell. Say, was that an enemy or was a teammate? Oh crap! Just shot purple. Game over. Oh, there was no visual cue to tell me you were my teammate. So, but in today's gaming, there's all these features now to actually help.
No, I like that, because you do hear that a lot of times where people are like, oh, this is not part of the game or something. And I think people forget that gaming's meant to be fun and it's meant for everyone. And so thank you for definitely sharing that and talking about just the challenges you had in gaming. Because I definitely can tell you there's people, myself included, where there's certain things in games where we would question the decision of a design feature.
There was one day, one of my biggest hates were in games was opening a map. Now, a map, if you couldn't customize a map to have bigger icons or the opacity of a map, you could not progress the game because you couldn't read it. There was no magnifier, there was no large icons, and there was no opposite. So I could sit there and stare at a map and go, nope, can't do it. But now, these features like magnify, if you press the PlayStation button and square on the PlayStation, it actually goes into magnification, which helps. It's actually integrated now in the system level than actual developer, and then the developer just uses the tools to actually build their game with more. So it's good to see that there's a lot of steps, not steps, like, the developer, the manufacturer that is now considering games should be fun and accessible to all.
For sure. And I know, we're kind of getting to it. I do want to talk about, we everybody here is familiar with Stadia, and I know you have a lot of different platforms. But what brought you to the Stadia community? 2.5 years ago when you started.
Well, my interest in cloud gaming goes back before that, because what happened was I used to play OnLive as well. I was on the game.
Lo-Fi Monk's a huge fan of OnLive.
But I at that time, I was in university. I was just doing my master's in internet security. And what happened was there was a Microsoft conference. There was a Microsoft conference and a Google conference that we got invited to. I remember just sitting there and watching the presentation of cloud services, and they were saying to me, and in the future, can you imagine playing Halo in the cloud and without the need of consoles? And this was like 10 years ago, and I was like, oh, wouldn't that be amazing? And don't worry, we're optimizing experience, so we're bring it around the world. Wouldn't it be amazing if millions of people around the world could play this game? And I was like, oh, the concept was there. So then when I actually seen Google on that keynote announced that they're going to bring a service called Stadia, I was like, oh, the future's here. We're going to play it in the cloud. I can't believe I've seen this like 7 years ago. I need to be part of it. So I went there and actually bought my Premier Edition. I was a huge Chromecast user anyway. So I was like, okay, I can take the risk now, because even if it doesn't work, at least I've got a Chromecast, because I use home automation for loads of tasks and to boot loads of stuff up. So I thought I was not at any loss. So when Stadia came, I didn't get my code at first, and I was like, oh, okay, I won't worry, let's just check on the internet. And there was people out there that were like, Stadia's terrible, the latency of cloud gaming. And I was like, oh my God, have I made the wrong decision? 4 days later, my Premier Edition came. I actually booted up my Stadia. I loaded Destiny, and I was just blown away. I had no latency, no problem. I wasn't playing the game in slow motion. And I was like, I can't believe the future is now. So when I seen the game library, I was like, wait there, I love Mortal Kombat. I love Final Fantasy 15. I love Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And all the games just screamed to me. So I was like, day one, buy. And I was like, okay, maybe a fighting game will have latency. But I'm playing Mortal Kombat, no problem. Shooters, no problem. Racing, grid, no problem again. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that Google's nailed it right now. Got all into my friends, and they were like, so who cares about cloud gaming? It's crap. I'm always going to be a physical gamer until I die. No one wants the cloud. I'm like, this is and that's why, because of my friends being naysayers, that is when I got to the YouTube and I started speaking to people like Ray and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, you played this game? And they're like, yeah. Have you seen Stadia Cast? Go over to Stadia Cast. And I was watching Stadia Cast, and I was watching Sonny and Ace, and then I was just watching all these brilliant people creating content showing that these platforms work. So I was always on the internet going, that mine works as well. Did you play this game? And they were like, yeah, can't believe all these people are saying it's crap, it doesn't work. And I'm like, oh, I'm confused where these people are coming from. And that was when we found out that there were limitations because of data centers or people's initial home internet infrastructure. So I think that once you get your own infrastructure sorted and you live, reasonably close, cloud gaming could have been an option for a lot more people if it was marketed a lot better, should I say.
No, that's fair. And I think we'll see where it goes going forward. We've talked about it many times on this channel as well as other channels, and you're part of many conversations about the future of cloud gaming and where it's going. But ultimately, I think once again, when it plays well, the proof is in the playing, as they say.
Because I don't use remotes, my best ever feature of Stadia was saying, Google Assistant, play Assassin's Creed Odyssey on bedroom TV. And then as I walked upstairs, it was already booted up on my TV. So I used to pick up the controller. Then if I needed to go somewhere else, stream it to downstairs TV. And then I used to go down there. Or I remember one time, my friend lives like 5 minutes around the corner. I walked round to his, got his mouse and keyboard, typed in stadia.com to playing that. And I was showing him, and he was like, what? Where is it? I'm like, it's the cloud. The game resumes for 15 minutes. And he was like, no, you've got 15 minutes auto. What's the downloads like? And I'm like, there's no downloads. It's all on a data server. And he was like, no, get out of here. And I'm like, isn't it amazing? So there was just loads of features that I was just blown away that I was actually utilizing that made it a lot easier to play games. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I know where the remote is. I know where my controller. I don't care about load times. But I was like, well, I do. It's faster by using all their power, their electricity. And all I needed was just a compatible device and a Wi-Fi controller, and I was good to go anywhere playing these games.
No, I think obviously we're all here. We all have seen it, and we've all seen a lot of other companies starting to catch up. I still think Stadia is quite far ahead in so many other categories than what gets talked about. But it's a personal opinion. As long as you're playing games, I'm happy you're playing games, no matter where it's at. But Hoults, as we're starting to reach an hour. Wow, it's went by super fast. Really quick, you yourself were about to be a content creator. Can you just talk about that really quick? And any pass on, because there's so many content creators here.
So what happens is I wanted to go through the gimmick that I was so used to. So because I love anime, so I funded the money to become a live 2D character. So a few people have seen my bird character. It moves, it winks, it's all rigged and all that. And I wanted to go in that animation style to sort of captivate a different audience instead of me just going on camera and playing games. I wanted to create content different to merge two hobbies that I like. And then what happens is in November 2020, there was a lot of hate towards the Stadia community, and there was a lot of hatred going around towards some of I thought they were amazing content creators that I always inspired to be. And a lot of them stood back because they couldn't deal with the sort of social media drama and the problems that surrounded being a content creator. So I thought to myself, do I really want to become a content creator and actually get this sort of toxicity off people? Not saying they weren't appreciative. I'm just trying to say that it takes a lot of time to be a content creator. And I feel like you have to have a lot of thick skin. Where me, I was like, okay, I just want to play games. I would have loved to play games and give someone a bit of humor and comedy in like what I enjoy in games. But I just thought deep down, I just wanted to play games. So I stood away from being a content creator on my channel, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't on people's podcasts and stuff. And then people are like, oh, there's Hoults, he's a podcaster. And I'm like, oh, I never really thought of myself as a podcaster. And I was like, oh. And then when people started dropping more links and I started getting to know a lot more people, I was like, wow, there's a lot of decent content creators out there. That sort of relit my passion to maybe start this YouTube content creation again. So what I would say to people is, if you want to do it, it's your passion, your hobby. But I think content creation is a slow burn for a lot of people. But if you've got the passion over time to see your channel grow, go for it. But if not, just join other people's communities and channels and just play games. And
Well, I definitely know. I always appreciate you, Hoults, and you're always welcome on this channel. And I love seeing, and I would love to see if you did start your own one. I know everybody in chat will be there. And I just want to, I see a Hutch. Thank you again for stopping by. Jeff, thank you for stopping by. And I think I saw Chris Torres. I don't think I got to say thank you to him as well. All amazing people that have been a privilege to meet in the community. But Holt, so will we maybe see a channel coming in the future?
Oh, as a wise man said, I'll just say it. It's always been there. We're not ready, and we've got somewhere to. We've still got a long way to go. I'm not going to tell you who said that wise thing, but it's been late, and I feel that's what my channel is. It's there, it's ready to go, and it could be there, and we could all go with it, but we have to see where it goes. I need that passion to be stoked. I need.
Oh, I would love to see it. I think we can stoke it for sure. And look at that, you have your partner in crime there, Mr. Underworld, Urban World, Underworld. You know, always. Well, they're cousins, so. But probably will have 2 subscribers there. But you know, as we're coming to an end, Holt, thank you again. And you know, usually I ask people where you can find them. And I know I linked your Twitter down at the bottom, but where could people like just reach out to you if they want to talk to you?
Well, see, I used to sit there on like on a panel, and I used to always say to people, if you agree or disagree with anything I say, please hit me up on Twitter and I'll speak to anyone, DMs, chat, and whatever. And I felt no one ever reached out to speak to me on the Twitter space, so I just thought to myself, it's okay. It's okay. People maybe don't agree or disagree with my views, but if you do want to reach out and say hi and speak about anything that I've agreed on, disagreed on, conditions or whatever, feel free to add me Hoults86 on Twitter, and I'm pretty sure we can become gaming friends or whatever, a bigger community, or if you want to join that Final Fantasy VII bulletin board, I'm sure I can dig it up from the archives and we'll dust it off and we'll start again.
No, I love it. And thank you again, Hoults, for coming in. Again, this channel is about community, for the community to come together, just see what everyone's at, to kind of get to know everyone. And I'm so excited too that you agreed to come on and talk so personal about your journey in gaming. So thank you again. And for everybody, for me, you know, next week, I just want to say, might be starting a little bit later. Still working out the timing, but I'm going to, once again, have a wonderful guest from the community on. And tomorrow, I'm super excited. Y'all see him in chat. Lo-Fi Monk, I'm going to be on his show, Cloudy Thoughts. Again, we're going to be talking about gaming. We're going to be talking about stuff in the cloud. You know what it is. It's like probably the best late night, but not too late Friday talk show about cloud gaming. So thank you. And then I will be again with Lori, aka Laura Croft, aka Basic Chick.
I just have to say, I really miss tuning into a lot of Americans' streams, but it's too late. Years ago, I used to always tune. I used to be always there because of restrictions of COVID. But now I'm like, God, I wish I could tune into more and more.
Oh, well, thank you so much for staying up, Hoults. We know it's late over there, and I definitely owe you for sure.
Now I need to get a bus home now. It still looks like it's daylight where I am, but I need to get a bus home now to my bed. And
oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Hoults. And thank you again, everybody, for joining us tonight or early morning. And this is Purple Haze, and the proof is in the playing. All right. Have a good one, everyone.